Get into it. I knew Joe Rogan would be talking about this. Coach Colin here, Sold Not For Sale podcast. Joe Rogan going off on the Biden administration, all about the Ukraine-Russia war. His guest says he feels safer with Trump heading into office. Joe Rogan is counting the days until Trump gets in office because on the verge of World War III right now. So Joe Rogan's going to be talking about the Ukraine-Russia conflict quite a bit. Gets real upset about this whole thing. Of course, why wouldn't you if you have kids and you're just a person on American soil? And then I'm going to show you a longer version because I showed you guys one yesterday of Putin speaking. I'm going to show you a little longer statement from Putin where he really breaks down like, hey, you guys can't stand up to what we're about to do. It's pretty crazy. And then I'm going to show you a bunch of information about the whole thing. We're going to get into what Jordan Peterson thinks as he sits down with Piers Morgan, Tucker Carlson clip. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Lay back. Let's get the information dumping.
Just feel safer knowing like...
Pull this microphone with your face.
I feel safer knowing that Trump is in office.
I do too.
I feel great about it. Like I just like.
What I don't feel safer is right now they're launching missiles into Russia.
Yeah.
How are you allowed to do that when you're on the way out? Like the people don't want you to be there anymore. This should be like some sort of a pause for like significant actions that could potentially start World War III. Maybe that would be a good thing that we would like to avoid from a dying former president. Mm-hmm. It's the whole thing is nuts.
I mean, look, I don't know shit about politics.
Zelenskyy says Putin is terrified. Fuck you, man. Fuck you people. You people are about to start World War III.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Russia fired a missile today.
I feel like they fired an intercontinental ballistic missile for the first time ever. It's the first time one of those has ever been used.
It's insanity.
It's insanity because those intercontinental ballistic missiles can have nukes on them. This one didn't, but if it does, the whole world changes. And it changes because of the military-industrial complex, and it changes because of the money that's going to Ukraine, and it changes because the outgoing president or whoever the is actually running the country has decided to do something insane.
Yeah.
Insane. And we're all sitting there watching it, and people are cheering it on. CNN was saying, like, finally, see what their headline was about Zelenskyy about Biden giving Zelenskyy the ability to use long-range missiles. U.S. made long-range. It's not like nobody knows where they came from. It's not like nobody knows we've been funding this. It's a proxy war. The whole thing is insane. It's insane. Come to the negotiation table. Sit down. Work this out. Stop killing everybody. U.S. allows Ukraine to use long-range missiles. So what did they say? Someone had said that, like, CNN was saying that it was a good thing, which I think is How has the left gone so far crazy that they think it's a good thing to launch missiles? That's what's scary about life is like you don't want to pay attention to that. You just want to live your life. You want to just be carefree and have fun and do the thing that you're passionate about. And meanwhile, the world is burning. And
you
just
can't do
hoping
anything
it
about it.
doesn't
It's
get
at that high level. It's like there's nothing.
Well, we can. We voted Trump in, and
Yeah,
his idea is to stop all this, and hopefully he can do that.
Yeah.
But man. It's scary.
I feel like none of the problems between the Ukraine and Russia would have been exacerbated as far as they went had Trump been in office.
I'd like to think that.
I genuinely believe that he has a way of keeping the peace in a certain way, and like.
Well, as soon as he got elected, the Taliban said, let's form a truce. Hamas is saying, let's cease fire. Everybody was saying these things like right away. China was saying, we'd like to do business with America. Russia was saying that. Like, let's calm everybody down and stop being so tribal. Yeah. You're so crazy that you think that everything the left is doing is right because you're on the left. This is insanity. Mm. And for anybody that's a left-wing progressive person to think that somehow or another missiles are a good thing, God, you people are out of your minds.
That's the answer.
It's never the answer. This is craziness, especially with Russia. God damn.
Yep. But anyway,
that's the shit that keeps me up at night, man.
Oh, I know.
When I get paranoid late at night when everyone's asleep, that's the thing that gets me. World war.
Yeah.
The war because it's happened before, man. The world has been at peace before, and then all of a sudden chaos. And to think that can never happen again, you're wrong. It's happening right now. It's just not happening here, and we don't feel it here, so it doesn't affect our thinking process, and we support things that could lead to it happening here, and we don't even realize we're doing it while we're doing it.
as a human being, like, wouldn't you think that keeping yourself and the rest of the population of the world safe is priority?
Number one.
It's priority.
That's number one.
And peace.
And by the way, everybody wants peace. Everybody wants their children to be happy. Everybody wants to be well-fed and healthy. Everybody wants that.
Yeah.
Just figure out a way to balance it all out.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well,
we got 60 more days until Trump gets in or whatever it is. How many days is it, Jamie? But who knows? Maybe once he gets in, they'll ramp it up. Who knows? Maybe they'll sabotage his administration. That's what's even more scary. People don't want him in power. And the people that are in power don't want to leave power, and they'll try every way they can to keep it. 60 days from today. All right.
On the news.
60 days.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah. Just hope Putin understands what's going on as well, and Zelenskyy doesn't do anything stupid. But saying that Putin's terrified, God.
It's like you're trying to, like, tug the tail of a sleeping
Dragon. Yeah. Also, Zelenskyy, can I get a drug test? Can we just get one drug test before we send you any more money? Like, what are you doing? Are you doing a lot of blow over there? Like, because this is like blow-like behavior.
I'm not responsible for him. I wasn't there.
But you know what I'm saying? This is like like behavior. Putin's fucking scared, man.
Yeah.
Putin's terrified.
Jacked up.
We got him, man. We got him. Like, what are you talking about? He has nuclear missiles, you monkeys. Jesus Christ.
It's my chance right now.
Jesus Christ.
Cause destruction.
Yeah, Putin should not have invaded Ukraine. Yes, 100%. But don't start World War III. Like, there's got to be a way to settle this. There must be.
I got to put some of this into my music, like these feelings and like even the conversations we're having.
One of my
like
best, my favorite anti-war songs is Ghetto Boys. F*** a war.
Yeah.
Bushwick Bill. Willie D told me he wrote that in 40 minutes.
I like Ghetto Boys. I
love Ghetto Boys.
Storytellers. Like
yes.
They certainly got off that topic pretty quickly. You see that? That was pretty easy, the way they just got off that topic. But Joe's so right. That's the best. It's blow-like behavior. I was gonna save it till last. I'm jumping right to it first. This is what Joe's talking about. If you have no clue what Joe means when he's talking about Zelenskyy, check out Zelensky's face.
Mr. President, I just returned from several areas along the front line in the south and in the east, and soldiers there told me they have to ration their ammunition. They don't have enough weapons to advance. They can only defend themselves. In some cases, they're losing territory. What happens to your country if this American aid doesn't arrive?
We will lose a lot of people. We will lose territories.
Mr. President.
He's just all wrapped up in something. Look, somebody even said it's not the first time. This is him talking to somebody again. What's going on with bro? But you know what? As much as the sniffing's a little bad, I wanted to stick up for him because I have terrible allergies. And sometimes you guys will see me, I'll be like this. I'll be like, ah, God. And I'm going nuts. And somebody could definitely confuse that for that type of behavior. But off of this light note, okay? I like to make it light, but also this is going to get very heavy. This is an English translation of Putin's statement. It's just basically him going over exactly what Rogan was saying in the sense of, he's basically saying, I understand who's financing this. I understand who's really doing this, and I'm ready, and I've been getting ready. I have the missiles. You guys can't stand up to this, but I'll just let him say it for himself.
Entire line of contact, and all the objectives that we set before ourselves will be met. As a response to the use of US and UK manufactured weapons, the Russian forces have carried out a combined strike on one of the military-industrial facilities in Ukraine. And this included the test of a novel intermediate-range Russian missile system. A ballistic missile with a non-nuclear hypersonic payload was used. The test was carried out successfully. The objectives of the launch have been met. One of the largest and well-known industrial centers that is known since the Soviet times. In the Dnieper region, which is known and to be involved in enemy production, was hit. And further, plans are being made in Europe and the Asia-Pacific to deploy weapons and missiles. And we believe it is a mistake on the part of the United States to destroy the system that was established by the Missile Treaty in 2019. We see that the United States and their allies are now considering and has successfully tested their capabilities to deploy advanced missile systems in different parts of the world. And their exercises routinely include the use of such weapons. Russia has unilaterally refused to deploy intermediate and small-range missiles until we see similar weapons deployed by the United States in a region of the world. The use of the novel system, which was essentially an operational test, was carried out in response to the decisions made by the United States and their allies. And the further actions will be considered and decided based on what we see from them. The further course of action will be determined based on the threats to the security of the Russian Federation. We believe that we have the right to use our weapons against military facilities of countries who allow their weapons to be used against ours. And in case of an escalation, we will act as decisively in a mirror fashion. The ruling elites of the countries are nurturing plans to use their military contingents against Russia should be warned. When choosing measures to be used in response, such as the use of systems that was tested recently in Ukraine, will certainly include warnings to civilians and to clear the zones that will be targeted. And we will certainly do this in a transparent fashion. And we do not have any fears that it will reduce the effectiveness of those systems, because there is no way to counteract a missile that flies at 10 Mach, which is 2.5 to 3 kilometers per second. Existing anti-missile systems and the anti-missile systems deployed by the United States and Europe cannot intercept such missiles. It is impossible. So, once again, it is not Russia, but the United States who have destroyed the system of international security. And they are trying to preserve their hegemony and stoking a global conflict. We have always preferred, and we still prefer, to resolve our disagreements using peaceful means, but we are prepared for any scenario. And if anyone has any doubts, they shouldn't. There will always be a response.
Wow. Wow. So, that is what he has going on. Do you live near where they develop weapons, people? Clear out. I'm kidding. Kidding, but not kidding. I mean, keep your eyes open. This guy's talking about alerting civilians, and this is absolutely insane. Insane that this is happening. And it's solely, and obviously there's Blinken, there's a bunch of people, Lloyd Austin, there's a bunch of people, Milley, there's a bunch of people. But the Biden-Harris administration, I mean, this is the worst. Am I wrong? This is the worst president, and this is the worst administration. This is terrible. You got into this situation, and you're stoking it now. And it would be different if the guy who you were poking, if he didn't know. But the guy knows. And he's looking at all of us and he's like, hey, I'm going to tell your civilians to move and I'm going to hit you. There's nothing you can do. This is how fast they move. Like, he's just being very open about this. Those are the worst kind of guys to fight. You ever get into a fight and the guy looks at you and goes, outside? Yeah. Let's go outside then. And he holds the door for you and you're like, man. And then you don't want to fight because you're like, oh, he's so serious. He's so serious. That's exactly where we're at right now. He's so serious. And our president's sleeping. He's sleeping. I don't care what time it is when you watch this video. He's asleep. That's it. Just check your watch. Just look at it. Whatever time it is, he's sleeping. This guy's up. This is crazy, man. I'm going to show you a bunch of other clips. I just want to have a quick tinfoil speedo moment, okay? There's a lot of people who are making a little point of pointing this out, okay? I'm just going to play this clip, okay? I'm playing it silently. I'm playing it at double speed. You notice his hands don't move at all? You guys notice that? His hands, they don't move. Not even a little bit. Not the whole time. In fact, it seems like nothing moves up to here. I don't know what that means. People are just pointing it out on Twitter, okay? So I'm just pointing it out too. It's a little weird. You know what I mean? Double speed, it's been a minute. You think a finger would move? Something? You don't want to adjust? That's how sure he is. He's not even willing to move his hands. This is crazy. Anyway, we'll move on. I just wanted to show you guys that really quick. What do you think that is, by the way? You know? Why are people pointing that out? Anyway, let's get to this clip.
Breaking overnight, Russia strikes the Ukrainian.
Okay, I'm listening to that on double speed. That's what I do. I'm sorry, guys. Let me put it down to normal speed for a second. Normal.
Breaking overnight, Russia strikes the Ukrainian city of Dnipro again. This after Thursday's attack using an experimental medium-range ballistic missile. And overnight, the Kremlin says the launch was a response to, quote-unquote, reckless decisions and actions of Western countries. Ukraine's President Zelenskyy calling the launch a severe escalation of the war. Joining us right now is CNN military analyst and retired Army Major General James Spider Marks. It's good to see you, Spider. Thank you. This strike in Dnipro, the way the Russians described it was a ballistic missile with a non-nuclear hypersonic warhead with a medium range. The way a U.S. official, Spider, described it at one point yesterday was that it was an experimental medium-range ballistic missile, not an ICBM, as Ukraine's military had initially claimed. Describe for everyone the distinction and the significance in this moment of this new move.
Well, an ICBM, just to get into the details of that, an ICBM would be intercontinental, right? So this would be an extra theater, outside of the theater of conflict type of a missile system. This was not. The fact that it was not nuke tip, good decision on the part of the Russians. I think also Putin is probably sending a message, which is, hey, look at me. I can show restraint. Could have put a nuke on it, and I chose not to. But I think primarily what you see is this was a kind of a very tactical tit for tat. It's a response to the unleashing of the ATACMS that the Ukrainians have that are launching now against military targets on Russian soil, long overdue. And so Putin now this is a card game to Putin. So he just wanted to see that card on the table, and he met that card. And this is what we see right now. I think also that the number of these missiles that they have in this experimental category are probably few. So I don't know that we're going to see this as a significant, it's not necessarily an escalation in the fight. I think what we have is these two pugilists are trying to improve their position, moving toward the administration change out in January, and they're probably going to be exhausted. So I think over the course of the next couple of months, very sadly, is going to be an increase in terms of the volatility and the exchanges that we see between the Ukrainians and the Russians.
I wanted to ask you about that because as you just said, you think at least some of what is happening now is really a response not just the tit for tat between the two, but also to the U.S. election and kind of Ukraine and Russia both fighting to improve their position or their argument or their, their tactical advantage before the next administration comes in. You mentioned the next 2 months. I mean, how bloody could this get if that's some of the motivation that exists here?
Well, I think it really is. The description I would use is two dudes in a, kind of in a very tight fight. They're grabbing each other by the lapel and they're trying to pummel each other, but they're looking over their shoulder to see where that new guy, incoming President Trump, is in terms of his perspective. Ukraine certainly is saying, look, we need your help. We need to end this fighting. Putin thinks the same thing. Look, he's as exhausted as Ukraine, but Russia's ability to withstand and to reinforce the fight truly exceeds Ukraine's. The Ukrainians now are being pushed pretty significantly. Again, their resilience is quite phenomenal. But Russia has this, they've got the size, they've got the numbers, they've got the manpower. And Putin is totally immune to the suffering that those soldiers have on the front lines. So both of them are looking for Trump for some type of a, not a full resolution, but give us a quick outcome and let's figure out how we want to move forward.
Ukraine's.
So this is very interesting. See, here's the thing, like this is mainstream media I'm playing for you, of course. And, we would go forward in another world where we didn't have everything we have, all the access to information, and we would take that as that makes sense. That's what it is. But then when I play Putin's actual response, I'm not saying that guy's making anything up. What he's saying makes sense, but also you can kind of tell Putin has said, we would rather do this in peaceful means. I have what it takes to strike. I know, US, UK, that you are doing this, and I'd like this to stop, but if it doesn't, I have some stuff that you won't be able to stop, and I can make it nuclear if I need to. He's making it pretty clear, whereas in Zelensky's statement, and I'm not going to play that over again. I played it once in another episode that I just released where I was focusing heavily on what Tucker Carlson had to say about the war. But Zelenskyy was pushing for pressure. That's exactly what he said. He said he wanted to pressure Russia, talking about him being scared, like Rogan said. And, it seems like when you're hearing both statements that Zelenskyy wants war. He wants more money, more firepower for more war. And Putin seems like he's like, well, I have everything I need and I'm getting it from other places like Ukraine is, but I don't want to do this. I would like to stop this. I'm not saying Putin's the super peaceful one or anything, but it's in his words. You could say he's just a demon and he's evil and he's lying, but it's like he says, I'd rather do this through peaceful means. Whereas Zelensky's like, I want more money so we can do more war. Are we still doing this or what? We doing this? Yeah, that's just what he's doing right now. Seems very odd. Also, I will say the way that this guy framed it, this gentleman here, you notice how he's like, on the Ukraine side, he's like, their resilience is just incredible. And then all of a sudden when he was talking about Putin and the Russian side, he was like, well, Putin's just immune to what's going on his front lines. He just could care less. It's like, I'm not saying Putin's an angel, but it seems like both of them don't care about their front lines. I mean, Zelensky's, come on. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm not saying Putin's a great guy, but I'm saying Zelenskyy doesn't seem like he cares much about his front lines either. I'm just putting it out there. People are dying. He knows people will die. Even in that interview I played as a joke, just looking at how he was being with his blow behavior. But at the same time, they're like, what happens if you don't get this? Oh, he's like, we'll lose a lot of people. He could say we'll stop and there'll be peace and I'll talk it out. But he's like, no, we'll lose a lot of people and a lot of territories. That means he just wants to keep fighting. His right, the nation's right, of course, right to defend themselves, fine. But, war's war. And if you're doing it, you're kind of advocating for it. You could go about it peacefully. Just saying. Anyway, let's hear what not Joe Rogan. Let's hear what Jordan Peterson has to say about Putin and what he thinks is going to happen once Trump gets in office.
Here we are, Jordan. We're 2 years later. We're in a stalemate. Putin is still rattling his nuclear weapons as a threatening, back-off, pretty menacing device. He's done that a few times and then not acted on it. But things are clearly very tense there. And there's a change coming in the presidency in America, which could be crucial as well. Where do you think we are with this war? Are we any better off or towards any kind of clarity or ending than we were when you and I spoke back then?
Well, I thought a week ago that the most likely outcome with regard to the outgoing Biden administration is that the military-industrial complex, who has a vested interest in seeing this war prolonged, would do something to provoke Russia into doing something that was unforgivable so that the war would have to continue. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's exactly, now I could be wrong, but that seems to me to be exactly what's happened this week. I mean, Biden, in the dying embers of his administration, decided that it was okay for Ukraine to use medium to long-range missiles, which is a hell of a thing to do as an outgoing president. And now they've also proposed that it will be acceptable for Ukraine to use a certain kind of distributable landmine. And it's like, this is independent of what you think about the war, as far as I'm concerned. It's like, really, is that what you do? That's the steps you take as a dead duck president in the final months of your administration, eh? I think that's a little bit on the provocative side. Now, my sense is that Putin will hold himself in check until Trump takes power, and that the war will come to a relatively rapid end soon thereafter. I don't know. I'm not a foreign policy expert, and the world's a very unpredictable place. But if I had to bet, that's what I would bet on, and I think it's a highly probable outcome. So we'll see. I mean, everything's up in the air, obviously, Pierce. This new administration, this new Trump administration, God only knows what is going to happen with Musk involved and Vivek Ramaswamy and J.D. Vance and Mehmet Oz and RFK. I mean, you're a fool if you're going to predict the outcome of that.
What do you make of it? I mean, they call.
So, I do agree with what Jordan's saying. I think that's what's going to happen. I think just from the statement that I've heard from Putin that, the hope is that he doesn't just gear up nuclear wise and just start hitting the Ukraine, the US or UK, whoever he feels is involved, I hope that's not it. It seems like the fact that he said I'd rather go through this with peaceful means kind of shows a little bit of what Trump has said, right? Trump has said, he's gone on record saying peace through strength. He's gone on record saying he sat down with Putin and he would kind of do what Putin was doing in this video. Not quite the same, but he would say, wonderful buildings. It would be horrible if something happened to Moscow. Yeah, it would. And it will. But, I don't want to see that happen, right? Right? We're friends here. Like, Trump talked about he would talk about having to make these threats and people not understanding whether or not he was serious because it's Trump, and Putin not knowing whether he was serious. And that's exactly what Putin just showed. That was Trump's method about peace through strength. I will show you what we can do. You understand what we can do, and I will blow you off the map, but I don't want to. We can just make a deal. Let's just make a deal and be nice. Kind of what Putin's doing there. Hopefully that's actually what he has in mind, and that's actually what ends up happening. I'm going to play this clip, Tucker Carlson talking with Jeffrey Sachs, and he mentioned something that I found very interesting at first about mercenaries near the end of the clip. And then I'm going to show you another clip of the Russian ambassador to the UK. He brings up the same thing, which gives us some validity. Let's go. Play it.
There's nothing really that this administration going out is going to do. I don't think the president probably is in any mental state to lead anything at this point. So I think we're kind of on autopilot, which is a very bad place to be in general in a dangerous world. There are no active discussions that we know of between the United States and Russia, which is the essence, the sine qua non of ending this war and ending it on a responsible basis. This is a war between the United States and Russia. It's not a war between Ukraine and Russia. This is the most basic point. This is a war provoked by the U.S., with U.S. intentions, with U.S. aims for NATO enlargement. And it would take a president that understands the basics of this and why this was so wrong-headed and such an absurd and tragic idea that dates back 30 years now inside the U.S. security state to bring it to a close. But Biden was not that person, clearly. Biden bought into this whole reckless approach 30 years ago already and has been part of this tragic adventure that was somehow going to bring down Russia, but in the end, it's destroying Ukraine. So yes, we need a new president, and we need a president that honestly understands what this has all been about. And the one thing that we've discussed, and the one thing that's absolutely true, is the American people have never been told what this is all about. They've been told exactly the opposite.
And I don't think even now there's an appreciation that NATO forces, clearly U.S. forces in some form, federal employees or federal contractors are fighting in Russia, fighting Russia.
Oh, this is absolutely clear.
We have a hot war with Russia right now.
We are in a hot war because it's not only our financing, our equipment, our aims, our objectives, our strategy, our advice, but it's our personnel on the ground. They are not necessarily in U.S. uniform. Sometimes they're called mercenaries. Sometimes they're just not identified, but they are calling the shots, and Russia knows it. And that by itself is a big reason for alarm.
With Sky's Mark Austin, an accusation from Russia's ambassador to the UK.
Britain and UK is now directly involved in this war because this fighting cannot happen without without NATO staff, British staff as well.
But you are using
plans.
Chinese dual-use technology. You're using Iranian missiles. You're using Iranian drones. You're using North Korean troops. So are you saying all those countries are now directly involved too?
On that subject, I can say easily that we have plenty of mercenaries from different countries that are fighting right now on the side of Ukraine. So what's the matter?
It's that kind of reasoning Russia hopes will force the UK to back down.
So, just exactly what Jeff Sachs and Tucker were saying is exactly what this gentleman, his name is Andrei Klein, I'll say, Russian ambassador to UK, saying the exact same thing. So they're very aware. So it's like Tucker Carlson's been saying this, and the mainstream's just been like, well, Tucker's not even he's not a real journalist. But in reality, the ambassador and now Putin are acknowledging exactly what he was saying, that this is a hot war. It's a hot war because we know what you're doing. We understand what you're doing. We know that they wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for you. So just some wild stuff there. Very, very interesting. Now, I found this very interesting. Apparently, this is Russian state TV. Apparently, they threaten and announce the end of our civilization. Now, this is them threatening the UK. Russian state television officially maps out European capitals it's ready to actually take out. Now, again, this goes back to what Putin was saying. He was talking about actually pinpointing places, and apparently this aired on Russian TV as they were saying, like, this is what we're going to do. And this is exactly what Putin said in his statement, that he'd be very transparent about it. So
Несложно предположить географию ответа в случае, если короткий пресс-релиз Белого дома станет реальностью. Под угрозой без малого все европейские столицы, если наши ракеты встанут в Калининграде, Берлин, Варшава, все Прибалты, Париж, Бухарест, Прага. Конечно, американские базы в Германии, Гармия-Шпартенкирхен, казармы Патча.
Why am I being quiet? You guys don't understand this. So basically, they're just showing on a map everything that they're ready to do. And they're just showing it through this basic animation. That, like, they'll hit here, not only London, but Manchester, Brigham, the largest naval bases. This is exactly what Putin was saying in his statement. Scotland, all where they have their facilities. Now, I don't know how far it would go if they decided to show this same type of thing, or if they have, of the US. I feel like that would be a step too far. I think you can do that with the UK, because they're all wrapped up in all of their fun things. They're arresting people for tweets and stuff, so they're real busy right now. But I feel like if Russia state TV decided to do that with a US map, I feel like that'd be a step too far. I think even they know not to do that. I think they understand they can say it, you know, hey, we know what you guys are doing, but to actually put it on a map where Americans and the American government could get a hold of it and say, you said you're going to hit here. I think that's a step too far. I really do. As much as people paint Putin to be a demon and just, you know, bloodthirsty, I don't know that he wants that problem. I don't know that he wants that problem. I'm a little biased. You know I always admit my biases, guy. I'm a little biased, but I'm just saying. I don't know that he wants that problem. So UK, hope you're okay out there. No, I'm kidding. It's not funny. It's crazy. And hopefully it gets talked about peacefully. Again, going back to what Jordan Peterson said, hopefully Trump gets in office and this just speedily, just expeditiously gets handled and put to bed. And then, you know, we can just focus on liberals crying, you know, and shaving their heads and stuff like that, because this is just too much. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to bring you all that information. Tried to keep it as light as I could, but it's World War III. Gets a little heavy. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. Helps us tremendously. Other than that, I'm out.